I'm Frances Alonzo with VOA's Mideast Voices Women Rising. Joining me today are our guests, Ayesha, Mattu, and Nura Maznavi. They're editors of the book Love Inshallah, The Secret Love Lives of American Muslim Women. Why did you feel there was a need to write this book?
We felt that it was about time that we started telling our own stories, and we thought what better stories to tell than love stories which have a universal appeal.
Well, we really wanted to demolish the idea that Muslim women are submissive and lack agency and control over their lives. We really wanted to show the incredible diversity of the Muslim community and show that Muslim women are independent and opinionated and have very colorful love lives.
Yes, because it does come across in the book. I've had the opportunity to read it, and I have to tell you, some of these are very private, personal things, like someone's reading someone's diary. I mean, how do you get to that point to where women are so readily willing to talk about these things? I mean, you talk about some really serious issues, you know, along with alcohol, drug abuse, and homosexuality.
Many Muslim women feel that their voices or stories may have been used against them or quoted out of context, and we really gave them control over their own narrative. And I think there's also a sense among Muslim women that the time has really come to look at these issues, to lift them up. There's a number of really joyous and celebratory stories. There's funny stories, and there are some painful stories in here as well that deal with the subjects you talked about, as well as racism and sexism, rape, caste issues, other issues that women are facing, the stigma of divorce that I think many women around the world can relate to.
So can you give us an example of one of the most endearing stories?
I can think of a couple. One is the opening story, which is called Leap of Faith, and it's about a young Pakistani-American woman who, within the span of 6 weeks, sort of on the recommendation of her mother, meets a young man from South Carolina, and then within 6 weeks decides to take that ultimate leap of faith to marry him. So it's a sort of American arranged marriage with this really interesting look into it, where she takes the reader on her journey of how she bases her decision on mutual chemistry and of shared values, character traits that are going to last a lifetime, including respect and trust and good communication and a sense of humor. And the sort of surprising twist of that is many Americans might look at that, or any reader might look at that and think an arranged marriage is loveless or purely for duty, and yet it's an incredibly romantic story, and it's about how she falls madly in love with her husband, and now 10 years later continues to fall more deeply in love with him every day. Another story that comes to mind is about a young Iranian-American woman. She has this conversation basically in a car outside of a movie theater, where her mother realizes that there's a boy in her group of friends who's going to be watching a movie with her, and she's not really supposed to be hanging out with boys of any age, even if they happen to be 14, as they are in this story. And so her mother decides, well, now's the time for me to tell you about your personal anatomy and enlighten you as to that. And she's very shocked. And it comes across as very funny, and of course she's a stand-up comedian, and so she takes this moment of sort of adolescent trauma and turns it into something very funny that everyone can really relate to. And she talks about how it impacts her identity going forward and her relationships going forward, how the idea of sort of not having premarital relations is something that's impressed upon her, and how she has to sort out her values for herself as she becomes a young woman.
Does this project end here? I mean, how do you top this?
We have a lot of people asking for a sequel. We have heard from a lot of Muslim women that they want to know what's going on with the men, and they want a sequel that focuses on men and is written by men, so that's certainly a possibility at some point. We'd also really, really love to see international editions. So Love Inshallah UK, Love Inshallah Malaysia, Egypt, Nigeria, South Africa. Women in each country taking control of their own narrative, sharing their own stories, celebrating their context, celebrating the similarities we may have worldwide, and as well as the differences that we have.
You know, we're really thrilled that so many readers are connecting to the stories and connecting to the women in the book, and we've heard from so many women who are saying that the story really makes them feel less alone. They sort of are really moved and inspired by the universality of love and the search for love. And we're thrilled about that, and we hope that that continues, and we hope the book encourages and inspires women to really tell their stories.